Hello and welcome to our SAP S4HANA Migration Cockpit overview session. Today we will talk about transfer data directly approach from SAP system. My name is Elisaveta. I'm part of product management of SAP S4HANA Migration Cockpit team. Today I present with my colleague Heike Jensen. She is also on the call. And she will present you the demo of the direct transfer approach. We will start with the introduction. I will introduce you your way to SAP S4HANA. We will talk about functions and features included in the migration cockpit. We will see different migration approaches, but focus explicitly on the direct transfer approach. We will look through migration objects and also provide you with further information. Let's start. Your way to SAP S4HANA. You probably know that SAP S4HANA Migration Cockpit is part of SAP S4HANA. It's included in this licenses, and the tool supports customers with the new implementation scenario. So this is why this is also a recommended tool for the initial load of your data, and it's recommended approach for the migration of business data to SAP S4HANA. What kind of functions and features are included in the migration cockpit? So first, key facilitator of the tool is that it's coming out of the box, so it's easily to start using the migration cockpit. As it was said, it's available for SAP S4HANA, embedded in SAP S4HANA and included in licenses. There are no developer skills required to use the migration cockpit. It provides you with a step-by-step guidance through the whole migration process. It facilitates the transfer of business data. You also get a pre-configured migration objects and rules within the tool, and you can take advantage of the automatized cross-object value mapping. Of course, there is a modeling environment available. So with the migration object modeler, you can satisfy your customer requests. Let's see on the data migration process for the new implementation. First of all, the data migration is only one key task during the transition to SAP S4HANA. Please make sure that you understand your requirements as early as possible and you plan them accordingly. So you plan which migration objects you would like to transfer and migrate. You select your migration objects. You get the data. In our picture, you see two icons, one for staging tables, one for direct transfer approach, our focus of today. Then you map and transform data, you simulate data, and migrate data to SAP S4HANA. What are the key benefits? First of all, as it was said, the migration cockpit is coming with a pre-configured migration content, and the content covers all the best practice migration objects for master data and open transactional data. You receive the pre-configured content and mapping for each migration object. For example, we have migration object bank, vendor, product, etc. There are predefined staging table definitions and additional file templates for each migration object, and of course, predefined selection criteria dependent on your migration scenario. You can use the automated mapping between source and target structure, and there are no programming skills required to use the tool because the migration programs are automatically generated. And the migration cockpit is available for SAP S4HANA, included in licenses, as was said. It's also one of the key benefits. Modeling environment is existing, meaning that you can adjust and create your own content, your own migration objects. The environment is flexible, extendable. You can start using the model environment with the transaction LTM or M. And what it gives to you, you can easily integrate custom objects and enhancements into the migration project. More specifically, you can perform customer-specific enhancements to standard to deliver it already migration objects with the migration cockpit. You can easily adjust input structure, you can map structure and fields, you can add or change migration object selection criteria. You also can get advantage of the integration of newly created objects. So you can create your custom objects, SAP standard objects that are not yet in the scope of SAP S4HANA Migration Cockpit. And you need to use standard APIs, or also you can code your own function module. Different migration approaches in the scope of SAP S4HANA Migration Cockpit. Before 1909 release, including, we had 3 migration approaches available. Transfer data using files, where you download template file for the relevant migration object, you populate the file with the business data, and you upload it back to SAP S4HANA Migration Cockpit. Transfer data using staging tables, where the staging tables are created automatically, and you populate the staging tables with the business data, and then transfer data from staging tables to target SAP S4HANA system. The third approach, transfer data directly from SAP system, which was new with SAP S4HANA 1909, helps you to transfer data from SAP ERP source system to target SAP S4HANA system. You access the source system via RFC connection, and there are also set of scenarios available for this approach. For example, you can transfer the data from SAP apparel and footwear to SAP S4HANA fashion and vertical business. You can also select as a source system SAP extended warehouse management and migrate data to decentralized EWM. As of 2020 release, from 7th of October, we have 2 migration approaches available. Migrate data using staging tables, where now the file approach, or you can use this file advantage in the staging tables. So you populate the staging tables with the template files. But today we will focus on migrate data directly from SAP system. As it was said, you transfer data from SAP ERP source system to target SAP S4HANA system, and you access the source system via RFC connection, and also there are other scenarios available within the approach. For more information about the migration cockpit, you always can check our overview presentation. It has more than 107 pages, and it gives you even the whole overview on the all migration approaches. It's up to date, it's updated every release, so you can check the presentation. The link is included in our session, in our presentation. Migrated directly from SAP system. So first of all, you start using Migration Cockpit by clicking the Fiori app, migrate your data. You then have the guidance process and pre-configured content. As you can see on the screen, there are more than 140 migration objects available for direct transfer approach. And there are also such scenarios available as transfer data from SAP ERP 6.0 to SAP S4HANA, SAP apparel and footwear solution, you can 6.0 to SAP S4HANA. You can also transfer data from SAP extended warehouse management to decentralized WM based on SAP S4HANA, and transfer data from SAP CRM to SAP S4HANA for customer management. The data load is API based, meaning that you use an API to transfer data to SAP S4HANA. Before starting the demo, before handing over to Heike, there are some more marks worth to mention. It's about the scope of the migration cockpit. So the SAP S4HANA migration cockpit facilitates the transfer of business data from SAP source system to SAP S4HANA system. The tool is designed for initial load of data. This is why this is recommended tool for the SAP S4HANA new implementation scenario, it is not designed to keep data in sync between the systems or to realize a continuous exchange or flow of data. And you cannot transfer data from SAP S4HANA system to SAP S4HANA system with migration cockpit direct transfer approach. So the SAP S4HANA system is not supported as the source system. I guess now you got an overview information on how to migrate data directly from SAP source system. And I hand over to Heike. She will share with you the demo, how you can use the migration cockpit and use the direct transfer approach.
So I guess you see my screen, right? Hello, my name is Heike Jensen. I am a colleague of Elisaveta, and I'm also part of the product management team for the SAP S4HANA migration cockpit. Yeah, we will now have a look in the system. We are here in an SAP S4HANA system on release 2020, feature pack stack 0. And in order to start, we just click here on the tile, migrate your data, migration cockpit. And we start from scratch and create a project. You see that it's, of course, a test system, and there are already some projects in it. So we start here by create, and you see here we have now in 2020 the two, so to say, approaches. We have migrating data directly from SAP system, and with 2020, the other approach using staging tables, and it also comprises using files, is also in Fiori now. So you can just note that migrating data directly from SAP system was in Fiori since the beginning, so to say, whereas file and staging is now with 2020 also in Fiori. Yeah, we choose here the first option and start with a name. The first thing you have to choose, you see here, is the so-called scenario. And in our example, we will migrate data from an ERP source system. And you see all other approaches are also listed here as standard approaches. And in the future, we will go for even more scenarios. Okay, I say here from ERP. And as said, the source system is connected via an RFC connection. And as soon as the system administrator has created this RFC connection, it appears here in this list. So I will connect to an ERP system, which is called ABA, and it's set up for client 800. And with release 2020, the migration cockpit direct transfer is connected to the transport logic. So this means already at this place, I have to assign a development package. And in my case, I will not transport the whole stuff. So I put in here $temp. The next step is the data selection. So the scenario you choose defines which organizational units or unit is proposed by the delivered SAP migration cockpit. So for the ERP scenario, the pre-delivered organizational unit for selection is the company code. So for other scenarios, for example, EWM, it's then a different organizational unit. It's, for example, a plant or something like that. So we choose here, for example, or in our example, we choose company code 1. So you can choose one or more company codes here. The next step is then to choose the migration objects you want to use. You see here the whole list of delivered objects. So it's quite a lot. And just to mention it again, so these are the objects which are delivered by SAP. And of course, you have also a modeling environment. You also started with transaction LTMOM in the backend, as you are perhaps used to by the file staging approach. And in the modeling environment, you can enhance delivered objects or you can create own objects. Okay, so we do here a very easy example. We will choose activity type and cost center. So important is here, if you click on documentation, you get the migration object documentation. And now with 2020, we have it in the help portal. So it's not necessary anymore that you are logged on a system, on an SAP system, but you can check out the objects and scope and so on directly in the help portal. So make sure that you have the right release here selected in the upper part. And then you see here, this is the documentation, for example, for activity type. And what do you get here? It's a description, what is in scope of the migration object, what is out of scope, perhaps prerequisites, roles. Interesting is also for the technical guys, the information which API is used in this migration object. So BAPI activity type create multiple, for example, and you get some hints how you can check the migrated data afterwards. Okay, I go back. So documentation is linked here, or you access it directly in the help portal. The second thing you see here is the information about predecessors. So if you click here on this number, for example, on the number 2 here, the system shows which are the predecessor objects for the current object. So in this case, it's activity type group and secondary cost elements. So this is for your information only at this point in time. So I choose here activity type and cost center. Move it over here, say review. And now the system recognizes that there are predecessor objects for the chosen ones. And you can go here to view details and you see this is what is listed here. So this means this data has to be in the target system before you use the other 2 objects. But you see that we do not force you to add these objects because perhaps in your case they are not relevant, or maybe they have come by another means into the target. So we can't know this. So this is why we don't force you. And in my example, I keep it simple and I say do not add the predecessors. So only the 2 I have chosen, and I say create project. Yeah, I step into the newly created one. So what you see here, it's not ready for processing. So perhaps a little bit of background information. The delivered content is delivered into client 0. And when you create a project, the objects and all the dependent stuff like mapping, rules, and so on, they are then copied into the current client. And this, depending on the object, takes a little time. So this is why it's not ready. And as soon as it's ready, it's just, this line is then just vanished. So we have a little look around what is in here. So I click here on the object name. You see this one is already ready now. And here you have again some basic information on the object already in the also in the system. For example, the data model. So it's a very simple one with 2 tables. You have a history and you would find the logs here, dependency. This is more technical stuff. Go back. And we have a look here on the upper part. For example, if you step into settings, you see the settings for the project. So you see again the selection criteria. you see the assigned objects, history, and you have here the data retention period. So within the migration project, you create, sometimes lots of data. And so you can here define how long the data should stay in the system, or if you want to remove it at some point in time. So this is what you can do here. And if you would like to add more objects later on, you would just go here to edit, and then you go again to the list with all the delivered objects. What do we have more? So you see it's ready. We have here also important the job management. And you see, so this will then be relevant for selection, simulation, and migration. You see that you define the maximum number of jobs for a project, and you see that you can also do it more granular and define it on migration object level. And we have here monitoring. So now also we have the monitoring on a central place on this monitoring screen. So as long as something is running, you see it here. And if you got logs, you see it here in this column. Okay, so I have already prepared another one. I have not expected that it's so fast in the evening. However, you see here the two objects, and now you see nothing has happened so far. And here in this column action, the system always proposes the step which might be the next relevant one, but nevertheless, if you use the drop down, you can also choose what you want to do next. So in our case, we just, we start selecting. And I click it here and say actions and select. So I do it for all the objects. It reminds you that you have defined company code, number 1, as selection criteria. And perhaps one remark at this point in time, per default, all the data for activity types, so all activity types and all cost centers from company code 1 will then be selected. But in the modeling environment, it would also be possible to further influence the selection. So you could, for example, say, I only want to select cost centers A to D or whatever. So you can use all the criteria which you find in the respective source tables. So we do it in a very easy way. We select all the data from company code 1. So it has started. And you see here, it's under running activities, or you can go here to monitoring. And you see that it's currently running. Yeah, the selection time, perhaps some words about this. So of course, it depends on different criteria, on system settings, on performance of source system and target system, number of jobs. And also it depends on the complexity of the object. So these are rather simple objects. I guess you saw it here. There are only these two tables concerned. But of course, if you have other objects like a fixed asset or customer or material, of course, these objects are much more complex, and this is also a reason why selection then takes some more time. Okay, it's finished. So I go back to the project. And you see now here that we have for activity type, we have 3 instances. selected, and for cost center we have 7. So if you click on the number, then you see more details. You see the 3 instances which have been selected. You see it's selected successfully. And if you click on the row, you got even more details for this item maintenance, for example. So you see the source structures, CSLA, and you see here the fields which have been, and the content which has been selected, and for the dependent table CSLT, the same. Yeah, there's an interesting function which is called mass processing. This is new in 2020. So imagine you have a very large list here, not only 3 records, but for example, I don't know, 3,000 records, and you want to process not the whole list, so simulate or whatever. You can now then use the mass processing functionality, and you can choose an action like exclude, undo, exclude, simulate, or migrate. For example, I want to simulate only dedicated items. And I would then be able to select, by using these criteria, a special subgroup of the selected items and process them or exclude them or whatever. Yeah, you see that you have here also the simulate, migrate, exclude, or undo, exclude. So you could also act on a single item level if you want. So I go back, and what can we see in addition? We see that after the selection, we have now mapping tasks. So what happens if you select data from the source system? The migration cockpit creates in the same step mapping proposals. In each object, it's defined which fields can be mapped. And per this definition, the system creates mapping proposals for these fields 1 to 1. And as already said, in the modeling environment, you could also create own mappings or rules or change existing ones if you are not satisfied with the delivered. So I click here, we have 3 mapping tasks for activity type. And you see in the standard delivery, you have the possibility to map the controlling area, the activity type ID, and the assigned cost element. Click the first one. So we had source controlling area 1, and we will map it to the target controlling area 1. This means it will be posted or created into the company code 1 in S4HANA. Confirm it. Then we have cost element. So these are the cost elements which have been found in the activity types. And I say, yes, confirm, just take it as it is. And of course, we have the activity types as such. And I will now go and change the target ID. So I'll change the suggested mapping. I just put an S in front and confirm it. Okay, now we have edited all mapping tasks. You see they are now under done. And the next step, which is suggested and which I will also do, is to simulate the migration. So I press simulate. You see that there are different options, all instances, random 10%, random 500, or you could also do a custom selection for the simulation. So I go for all and start the simulation. This was very fast. This is nice. And you see we have, so this is not the number of messages, but it's the number of items. So we have 2 items successfully simulated and 1 item is erroneously simulated. So I click the number in order to see what is the issue. So there's an issue with activity type admin. Click mark it and go to messages. So perhaps one remark with feature, so this is feature pack stack 0, and with feature pack stack 1 we will have enhanced possibility to navigate within the messages. So this is just like a little preview for you. So this message now, you see, this is coming directly from the application. So it's thrown by the API which is used. So it's just an application check, and it says that this cost element is not an allocation cost element type 43. So this means the assigned cost element does not really fit to the target master data. So the application guys have to check what's wrong and then suggest the solution. And in my case, I will adjust the mapping and map it to another, so the incoming cost element to another target cost element. So I go again to mapping tasks, to cost element. And here this one was causing the issue. And assume I have checked it in the system. And I'll map it to an existing one which fits, confirm it. And go back. You see, it suggests to migrate because they have been already successfully simulated items, but I want to simulate again. So I tick the drop-down menu and say simulate. And this time I only want to simulate the instances with errors. Start simulation. And now we have 3 successfully simulated items. So the last step is then to migrate. And I do it for them all. And we have now 100% successfully migrated items. And in our case, it's these 3 items. And in order to check the result, I would now go to the application tile. So it's the display of activity types. So therefore I go to section master data and I go to the tile manage activity types. And we migrated to controlling area 1, and the new activity types, they started with the S. And you see, these are the activity types which I migrated. And just to really complete the example, I go to my ERP source system to have a look what was there as source data. So you see, this was the original data in the source system, and this is the migration result in the S4HANA system. So with this, I would hand over to Elisaveta, and in case of question, we open up the lines after the presentation has finished.
Thank you. Thank you, Heike, for the demo. Yeah, we will prolong with the presentation. So there are some functions that's worth to emphasize, although you have already seen them. Probably so. there is the reselection of data possible since 2020 release. You have two variants, two options. When you, for example, selected the data and you would like to change your selection, you first of all can perform completely new selection, which deletes the former selection, or you can add additional instances to already selected instances. Yeah, there is a warning available for you if you have changed data in the source system. First, please delete the formerly selected instances and start a completely new selection. As you have already seen, it's possible in 2020 release directly in the Fiori tile, but if you work with SAP S4HANA 1909 release, you can still delete the former selection and repeat the select of data. Please visit our SAP note and you will see how you can use the report mentioned in the following note. We have another function, mapping upload download. In the mapping task screen, you can download empty templates and you can download the automatically filled value mappings to change the data, to fill these mappings and upload the values back to the system. When you upload your file, you first of all can confirm the values automatically if you are sure that your values are correct. Of course, you can opt not to confirm values automatically. You also can replace the existing values, or you can just modify values, add values. Please be careful when you download download values file. This file may contain target values that were created automatically. It's called internal numbering. So ensure that you change these target values before uploading the file to the system to prevent errors. If you work with SAP S4HANA 1909 release, you can upload mappings only in modeling environment. Mass processing function appearing in migration object instances list. You choose the specific criteria. For example, you would like to work with the critical items, and you perform the selection in our screenshot. It's a controlling area 1, activity time from A to B, and you have possibility to choose the following actions. You can exclude, under exclude, you can simulate this criteria instances, and you can migrate them. What is new with the release 2020? First of all, we have one harmonized user experience using Fiori UI for all approaches. You can get advantage of the object documentation available on helpsap.com for direct transfer approach. So you do not need to log into the system to check what is its scope, what is out scope of the migration object. You can transport project between the systems. You have possibility to reselect the data. This functionality enhanced in Fiori tile. You can download the mapping templates and download the mapping values and upload them back in Fiori. You can perform mass processing, and you also have monitoring functionality where you can check your running activities, completed activities, and also all your logs after the migration project. We have inserted for your reference the small video. This is 4 minutes demo video, how you can migrate your data directly from SAP source system to SAP S4HANA system. You can check it after our presentation. There are some technical preconditions worth to mention. First of all, you can migrate data from SAP ERP to SAP S4HANA system, but the lowest supported ERP release is ERP 6.0. The lowest supported release for SAP Apparel and Footwear is 6.0 release. If you would like to migrate your data from SAP EWM to decentralized EWM, the lowest supported EWM release you can select data from is EWM 5.1 release. If you would like to transfer data from SAP CRM to SAP S4HANA for customer management, the lowest supported release is SAP CRM 7.0. There are also necessary preparations in the system landscape that you should check. First of all, the adds-on DEMIS needs to be installed in the source system. You need to have a RFC connection from your source system to SAP S4HANA target system. You need to set up Fiori, as Migration Cockpit is the Migrate to Data app. You need to apply necessary nodes, and the good starting point is the composite SAP node mentioned on the slide. You should check your customizing in the target system, and you should ensure availability of required authorizations and roles. You can do it by looking through the installation guide, especially chapter 7. Migration object modeler, our modeling environment. So you step in the modeling environment by starting transaction LTMOM, and then there is a wizard opens up. You can create new migration objects, or you can adjust already existing migration objects presented by SAP S4HANA Migration Cockpit, so you can explicitly add customer tables or fields to the new migration objects or to standard migration objects. You can also add or change selection criteria of the standard object or your newly created user-defined migration object. You can also add projects, migration objects, and rules to a transport request. This is new with the migration object modeler. You can debug the transformation and the posting process. Of course, you can use the standard APIs, or you should use standard APIs, or code your own function module. You have possibility to copy migration objects. This is also a new function since 2020 release. And you can edit transformation rules, and you can create your own code rules. If you're interested in receiving even more information on SAP S4HANA Migration Object Modeler, you're welcome to check our deep dive slides. You can see there are even more information provided. There are 70 slides available for the modeling environment, for your reference. You can check it afterwards. Migration objects. As you have already heard, we have pre-configured migration objects available for SAP S4HANA Migration Cockpit for your reference. We have the list of objects available in SAP Help portal. We can check it live. Okay, you see that there is a list of available migration objects for 2020 release. In the switch button, you can check also the migration objects for other releases. You see the list of the objects, but what you can else do, you can filter your objects. For example, you can choose the direct transfer approach or other approaches, and you can use which kind of migration objects are available for transferring data directly from SAP ERP system, for example. So you filter your list. When you check the information on your object you're interested in, you can see you have the information about the purpose. You can see what is in scope, what is out of scope, what are the prerequisites, and even APIs. And all of this you can do without any access to the system. You can do it just online. Yeah. Okay. Further information. When you would like to check more detailed information on SAP S4HANA Migration Cockpit or data migration to SAP S4HANA on-premise, you're welcome to check our landing page. We have composition of different sources of information in different tabs. You can see, for example, if you'd like to get started using Migration Cockpit, you can check our overview presentation. You can see there are some intro videos. Also, under the section Training and Education, you can access the training material for different approaches or for modeling environment. For example, here you can see migration object modeler direct transfer tile, and you can access our presentation that we have already shown to you. You can check also. You can also check the video on the modeling environment, and you can see also the videos in the overall, which kind of videos are available for data migration. And you can also attend our Open SAP course on migrating your business data to SAP S4HANA. SAP community is also something that is worth to mention. You can visit SAP S4HANA Migration Cockpit community, and explicitly it's good to see the FAQs available for Migration Cockpit, and also the list of blogs, and even more information for your reference. Okay, if you would like to get a hands-on experience on Migration Cockpit and you don't have access to the systems, you can check SAP S4HANA trial system, and you can check SAP S4HANA fully activated appliance system. There are demo scripts available for different approaches of Migration Cockpit and even for different objects. If you would like to know what is that and how it's working, you're welcome to check the blog on the fully activated appliance system. Currently, the scripts with the instruction how to use Migration Cockpit are available for SAP S4HANA 1909 release, but the update for the release 2020 is coming soon. This is all the information we wanted to share with you today. Thank you for your attention.
So we say thank you, and have a lot of fun with the Migration Cockpit.
Thank you.